People think ageing is only luck or genetics, but research from real centenarians shows it's far more in our control than we realise. Stay until the end and you'll know what actually helps people live the longest, healthiest lives, based on decades of research, not hype. This video summarises research from the Blue Zones and leading ageing scientists. Disclaimer, this video is for informational purposes only and is not medical advice. What is ageing? Ageing isn't luck, genetics, or some switch that flips at 65. Scientists call it a process, and it starts earlier than most people think. Robert Kane explains it simply. We develop from birth, peak in our 20s, and then, slowly, parts of our systems lose resilience. Not everything falls at once, but piece by piece. Stephen Oerstad describes ageing as the progressive loss of physical and mental abilities, the slow fading of things you once did easily. Wrinkles and grey hair are visible, but the real change is internal. Less muscle, more body fat, slower immune responses, and weaker recovery. As resilience drops, the baseline risk of dying rises. Robert Kane also says, a 30-year-old today can reasonably expect to live into their late 70s or early 80s. Remove the big killers, heart disease, cancer, stroke, and we'd likely add about 5 to 10 more years on average. That's realistic improvement, not immortality. Reaching 100 is still rare. Jack Guralnick says, the odds are under 1% for the general population. Tom Pearls compares it to the lottery. You only win if you stack the odds with good genes and decades of healthy behaviour. Many centenarians were already healthy at 80. Long life tends to follow long health. Back in 2002, S.J. Olshansky and more than 50 longevity experts were blunt. At that time, there were no proven pills, surgeries, or genetic tricks that reliably slow the basic process of ageing. And that's the turning point. Ageing isn't fixed at birth. Scientists say our everyday choices push the accelerator, or take the foot off it. And Olshansky said back then, right now we haven't found a break, but we have clear evidence of what speeds ageing up. But it's worth noting that the Blue Zones research and much of the foundational work ran from the 1990s through 2000s. So the core lifestyle findings are solid, but the scientific landscape has evolved. We can now measure biological ageing more precisely, and some people report measurable changes in their biomarkers. One of the most well-known examples is Brian Johnson. He publicly tracks hundreds of biomarkers and reports that he's slowed his biological speed of ageing, largely through great consistency with sleep, diet, and daily habits. He's also tried experimental therapies, including follistatin gene therapy. He doesn't claim everyone should do it. He describes himself as a guinea pig, willing to test high-risk, high-uncertainty treatments on himself. But this is the only thing I can see since this book and research was done, where the information is possibly outdated because there are now therapies that seem to be able to slow your speed of ageing. So this follistatin gene therapy is said to influence muscle mass and lengthen telomeres. Telomeres are the things that are said to be capped so that people can't really live past 120 years old. So if everyone could work out how to lengthen them, people would be able to live longer. And not only that, if they're longer, that then means that your speed of ageing can also slow down. Anyway, and Brian Johnson has stated that this therapy did actually contribute to slowing his speed of ageing. But these are his personal reports, not established clinical outcomes. But again, even Johnson stresses the same point the Blue Zones research makes. For him, roughly 90% of the benefits comes from diet, movement, sleep, stress management, and consistency. Experimental interventions are an optional layer, not a replacement. Bottom line, ageing is a predictable, biological process of declining resilience, but it doesn't have to be a steep decline. And going back again, just to update this information to real time now, 2026, the idea that most people reach about 80 and that centenarians are rare still holds true for people that were born in earlier decades, like the 1920s through the 1950s. And the quality of those years depends on how we live long before old age. The habits and lifestyle choices we make throughout life shape not just how long we live, but how well we live. People from these generations lived many of their years naturally healthy, without even trying. Before the 1970s, processed foods, fast foods, and chemical additives were far less common, and most meals were made from fresh, whole ingredients. And it's been proven that even as things changed in their later life, many had already formed their habits early on. So they still never really indulge in fast foods, for example. But people born from the 1970s onwards, the default lifestyle has changed drastically. Today, living healthily often requires deliberate choices, eating well, staying active, and managing stress, because modern diets and habits are less naturally supportive of longevity. And real-world data backs this up. Life expectancy in some developed countries has stalled or slightly declined in recent years, driven by chronic disease, obesity, drug overdoses, and other factors. I personally think that people born in the 1970s who follow a typical lifestyle might reach around 70, and future generations will trend lower if current patterns continue. For people in my generation living typical modern lifestyles, it could be closer to mid-50s. But that's just my opinion, not a scientific prediction. So, if aging is a process, what actually controls how fast it runs? Genes, luck, or something we can change? What really determines longevity? So, is there a pill that extends life? Short answer, no obvious miracle pill replaces the systems that shape long, healthy lives. Robert Kane calls out the flood of nostrums, human growth hormone, antioxidants, you name it, and says, when these things are tested with real rigour, they usually don't pan out. If antioxidants from shelf-stable junk food were the cure, the generation raised on Twinkies and Wonder Bread would be immortal. They're not. Robert Butler is equally cautious about hormones. DHEA, growth hormone, and melatonin are commonly touted, but the evidence is weak and the risks are real. Growth hormone can bulk you up, yes, but it can also cause heart enlargement, fluid retention, and other complications. Most human studies are short, so the long-term effects remain uncertain. The guy that wrote the book, Buettner, points to experts like Mark Blackman and Mitchell Harmon for the most careful work. But the headline is simple. We lack long-term, large-scale proof these hormone strategies safely extend lifespan. Here's what the longevity experts say on vitamins and supplements. Be pragmatic. Meet your basic needs through food first. Lots of fruit and veg. Trials like those on vitamin E didn't deliver the protections hoped for. If you don't hit your veg quota, a modest multivitamin can be a cheap safety net. Megadoses are not a solution. One clear note from the book. Older men should avoid iron-containing supplements unless prescribed, because iron can accumulate and cause harm. Remember what actually shapes population health. Heart disease and cancer remain the top two killers. Prevention, healthier lifestyles, regular screenings, and good medical care still matter most. So just to remind you again, a quick modern caveat. Researchers today can measure biological aging more precisely, and some people are experimenting with advanced interventions. Those experiments are interesting, but they don't replace fundamentals, and they're not proven population-level solutions. Practical takeaway. Don't treat supplements or hormones as a shortcut. Use food first. Treat a basic multivitamin as insurance if needed. Avoid megadoses. And always check with a clinician before starting hormone or high-risk interventions. So, if pills and quick fixes aren't the answer, what does reliably slow aging in the real world? Up next, the everyday habits, diet, movement, social routines, and recovery that the longest-lived people actually practice. What actually slows aging? Scientists in the book come back to the same simple ideas: moderation, built-in movement, social connection, and purpose, not flashy fixes. So first, on diet, Robert Kane's advice is straightforward. Moderation. You don't have to be a vegetarian, but avoid extremes. Balance the calories you need across carbs, fats, and proteins. And watch portions. American servings are often oversized. Cut ultra-processed foods, excess sugar, salt, and industrial fats. In the blue zones you see the same pattern. Beans, vegetables, fruit, whole grains, and modest amounts of lean meat. The point isn't perfection, it's consistency and maintaining a healthy weight as resilience drops with age. Second, on movement. Don't treat activity like a punishment you do once a week. Make it automatic. Ride a bike, walk to the store, take the stairs, do some gardening. Weave movement into daily life so you actually keep doing it. Formal exercise still has a role, but each type does something different. Aerobic work for the heart and lungs, anti-gravity or weight-bearing activity, walking, standing. For bone health, strength work to preserve muscle, and balance training, Tai Chi, yoga, or simple drills to reduce falls. The data points to moderate, sustained activity you can maintain. Short daily sessions are better than an intense program you quit after a month. Does the gym help? Yes, but only as one part of a broader lifestyle. Cardio boosts cardiovascular health. Resistance work protects muscle and bone. And again, balance practices prevent falls. Marathon level training can improve your heart, but may accelerate joint wear. Aim for something you can keep doing 30 to 60 minutes most days, mixed across cardio, strength and balance. Also, I'd argue to get flexibility in there too. And remember, it doesn't all have to be in one block. And now on adding more good years. Because when you ask someone if they want to live a long time, or when they argue they don't want to live a long time, it's usually because they automatically believe that when you get into old age, you have to have all these extra issues that come with it. But again, proven by the Blue Zones, you don't have to have all these issues at a specific age. You can delay them or not get them at all. So, there are two questions. How long and how well? The goal isn't years on life support. It's delaying disability and preserving autonomy. Social connectedness and meaningful activity show up again and again in long-lived populations. Feeling cared for, valued and useful lowers stress and improves well-being. Work can be healthy if it's enjoyable. Stress from external pressures is what does harm, and never underestimate smoking. It's still the biggest preventable cause of premature death and premature aging, including visible skin aging. So here's a practical starter list, simple and actionable. Shift toward mostly whole, plant-forward meals. Cut processed foods and oversized portions. Number 2, build movement into your day. Walk, ride a bike, use the stairs. Aim for consistent activity. Number 3, add a few strength, balance, stretching sessions into your week. Body weight resistance bands or light weights. Number 4, stop smoking, prioritise sleep, and stay on top of routine health checks. Number 5, nurture social ties and find meaningful routines or projects that actually matter to you. And just a short thing I want to say on this that's quite interesting to me. It's not absolute facts, but it's things that people have noticed to do with work. People that fully stop work when they retire and do nothing don't tend to live as long as those that never stop working. It doesn't mean you have to do your actual job, for example, if that's not what you're enjoying. But if you retire, say, start painting or have an actual purpose and passion, and it's said that these people, because they've got something they need to finish, they don't give up and die, if you know what I mean. Like someone trying to finish a book or painting, they wake up every morning with something to get up for. But here's a last warning. Tom Pearls and other longevity scientists are blunt about quackery. Claims to stop or reverse aging are false and often costly or harmful. Real longevity comes from repeatable daily patterns, not miracle remedies. According to the Blue Zones, researchers spent 7 years visiting the places where people actually live the longest, confirming ages, interviewing centenarians, and distilling 9 lessons for healthy, long life. Their journey began on a small island off the coast of Italy. In my next video, I'll do a deep dive into Sardinia, the island where men live the longest. I'll show the exact daily habits they live by. So, to recap, aging is a process, not fate. Most of how we age is shaped by daily choices, not just genes. A good analogy I always repeat to people that I heard is that genes load the bullet, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Pills and quick fixes aren't the answer. What really works are repeatable patterns, moderation in diet, built-in movement, avoiding smoking, good sleep and recovery, and strong social ties and purpose. Those are the habits the longest lived people actually follow. And again, if you want the practical, everyday versions of these habits, what real people in the healthiest places actually eat, move and do, subscribe for my next video that will be on Sardinia, the island where men live the longest. If you learned something new, please like and subscribe to keep learning. If you know anyone that's interested in this kind of content, please share this to them as it really helps me out. If the next video in this series is out, then the playlist will be on screen now. If not, then there'll be something in the other playlist on screen you'll like. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. And remember, stay positive even when it seems everything is against you.